This is for educational use only. Our group is allowing our instructor, Mr. Roldan Ardines, to use this as an educational material.
Our topic is about the self-perspective from the various philosophers Greek Ancient Triumvirate, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, medieval philosophy, St. Augustine, Antonio de Mello. The self-perspective from the various philosophers, modern philosophy, Descartes, Locke, Hume, Kant, Churchland, Husserl, Ponty, post-medieval modernism, Davida, Foucault, Ponty is Stern philosophy. So the Greek Ancient Triumvirate is like the OG dream team of philosophers, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. These guys were heavy hitters and basically laid the groundwork for Western philosophy. Even though each had their own take on things, their ideas are like a tag team, weaving together to profound impact how we think about ourselves. So, the Socratic method is like the ultimate self-help tool, Socrates style. He was all about asking yourself the tough questions, digging into your beliefs and values. The idea was to spark some serious self-reflection, helping you gain knowledge and ethical insight along the way. It's basically the path to getting to know yourself better. Plato was on a whole different wavelength, diving into the deep end of philosophy. He was all about soul, not just here and now physical stuff, but this immoral essence that goes beyond the physical world. This belief got people thinking about their intellectual and spiritual goals, like a cosmic deep dive into the essence of the self. Aristotle was like the life coach of ancient Greece, preaching the virtue game. He was all about building up your character, saying that the true self-realization comes from chasing after virtues. According to him, being excellent isn't just about skills, but about shaping your moral and intellectual character. It's like self-improvement, Aristotle style.
Comparative analysis of perspective, Socratic. Comparative analysis of Socratic perspective, it involved examining his philosophical views in relation to other thinkers or philosophical traditions. Socratic is an ancient Greek philosophic focused on questioning and dialogue to stimulate critical thinking, comparing his ideas with contemporaries like Plato or contrasting them with contrasting philosophies like Sophism helps understand the unique elements of Socratic thought and its impact on the broader philosophical landscape. Modern interpretation and application. Contemporary relevance. The modern interpretation and application on Socratic philosophy, it involves adapting his principle to address contemporary issues and challenges. By applying Socratic methods of questioning, critical thinking, and dialogue, individuals can navigate complex issues, fostering open-mindedness and intellectual exploration. Philosophical legacy refers to the enduring impact, influence that a philosopher's ideas, principles, and methods have on subsequent generations of thought. For example, Socratic philosophical legacy includes the Socratic method of questioning and dialogue. His emphasis on ethic and the influence he had on Plato turn influence Aristotle. Presumption and critics. Presumption in philosophical refers to making assumption or accepting certain belief as true without requiring explicit evidence or proof. Example, in ethical discussion, a philosopher might presume the inherent value of human life as a foundation principle. This presumption serves as a starting point for ethical reasoning and decision making.
The enduring impact of Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle on contemporary Western society is evident in the practice of critical thinking and discussion, in education, the understanding of abstract concepts like laws and rights, in the scientific methods approach to gaining knowledge through evidence and experimentations. Socrates, through his Socratic method, emphasized critical thinking and questioning. influencing today's educational system where students actively engage in discussions. Plato's philosophy, Platonism, is reflected in our approach to modern laws and rights as abstract concepts. Aristotle's emphasis on empiricism align with the scientific method, where knowledge is acquired through observational evidence and experimentations. Socrates, known as the founding figure of Western philosophy, employed the Socratic method, emphasizing questioning to prompt understanding rather than conveying knowledge directly. Plato is his notable student established Plato's Academy and advocated for equal education based on ability, not gender. Aristotle, while exploring knowledge investment, rejected Plato's forms theory for a more empirical approach, emphasizing recognizing positive characteristics to pursue virtue and achieve happiness. These philosophical legacies continue to shape our thinking and practices in modern society.
Socratic philosophy, centered on the quest for truth, encompasses key principles that are: the first one is obeying conscience. Socrates emphasized the significance of adhering to one's conscience, advocating for ethical choices even in challenging situations. The second is self-reflection. Socrates promoted introspection, urging individuals to contemplate their actions. This emphasis on self-awareness aimed to cultivate a sense of morality and ethical behavior. The third one is questioning everything. So the philosopher encouraged relentless inquiry, urging people to scrutinize their beliefs continually. This commitment to questioning fostered a perpetual pursuit of understanding and truth in Socratic philosophy. The theory of forms. Plato's philosophical doctrine posits that the tangible world merely mirrors perfect and immutable forms. These forms, representing abstract ideals like beauty or justice, exist in a realm beyond our material reality. According to Plato, the material world is a flawed reflection of these transcendent forms, which are the true reality. Allegory of the cave is the Plato's allegory of the cave serve as a metaphor for the transformative journey from ignorance to enlightenment. In this allegory, individuals are chained inside a cave, perceiving only shadows on the wall as their reality. As one breaks free and ascends to outside world, they encounter the true forms and gain philosophical wisdom. This allegory symbolizes the pursuit of knowledge and the progression from mere perception to a profound understanding of the eternal and unchanging truths embodied in the forms. Aristotelian wisdom, ethics, and logic unveiled. Aristotle's virtue ethics emphasizes cultivating moral character for human flourishing through virtues like courage. Metaphysical realism, with concepts like the golden mean and four causes, explores the inherent structures of reality, offering insights into fundamental principles governing existence. Comparing philosophical visions, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. So, Socrates emphasized individual moral integrity and self-awareness through relentless questioning. Plato explored metaphysical realms, proposing a world reflects imperfectly perfect forms, focused on philosophical enlightenment and the pursuit of transcendent truths. And Aristotle contributed to ethics, logic, and natural sciences, emphasizing practical wisdom for virtuous living.
Transition Medieval Philosophy. Greek philosophical traditions Greek philosophical traditions saw a number of changes as they made the move from ancient to medieval philosophy. Ancient Greece's golden age was followed by the rise and fall of Rome. Rome helped preserve and disseminate old Greek philosophical concepts, even though it did not produce any noteworthy unique contribution to philosophy or science. St. Augustine Philosophical Vision. St. Augustine philosophical outlook sought to comprehend the attribute of God, the human predicament, and the relationship between God and humans. Augustine wrestled with the issue of evil and attempted to make sense of it all while maintaining the idea of loving, all-powerful God. He maintained that evil results from human free will and is the absence of good. Later studies on the problem of evil in philosophy and theology were impacted by Augustine's investigation of this question. Perspective on the self. Because of this extensive philosophical reflection and Christian belief, St. Augustine had a unique view on the self. The following are some salient features of Augustine's theory of the self. The inner self. Augustine placed great emphasis on the value of self-analysis and introspection as a way to better understand oneself and pursue a closer relationship with God. He held that every human soul has inner self that is capable of introspection and self-awareness.
The concepts of self-sacrifice and central transcending the inspections permeating is how to delve into profound questions of consciousness, identity, and existence. The unravel of enigma of the self, from René Descartes' fundamental cogito ergo sum and Immanuel Kant's explanation of self-consciousness. Each philosopher contributes a unique perspective. Celeste, like John Paul Sartre, emphasize radical freedom, while others, like David Hume, challenge the definition of unified self. These diverse, typical, and philosophical tools enrich our understanding of the human experiences, offering nuance and insights into what it means to be exist. According to Locke, personal identity, it is not reliant on a specific substance or soul, but its instant tide and continuity of consciousness. As a negative life, each experience contributes to this involving mental shapings or individual identity. This perspective has profound applications, suggesting that our understanding of selfhood is a product of the unique and journey and the connected nature of these consciousness and experiences. Descartes, in his story, mind-body dualism, separates the self from body, proposing that its mind and body are Descartes' entities. These concepts and Venta suggesting that the excess of identity of the physical. Now, David Hume's skepticism, his actions, and conflicting perceptions, Hume challenged traditional views by depicting the self and dynamic bundle of perfections and argues that there's encoding, changing change and self. Instead, it is unique from the perspectives changes that ability is unique traditional application with self, suggesting that our identity is conscious, shifting occupations and experience.
Kant's transcendental self idea is like a philosophical architect, highlighting the unity of consciousness as the cornerstones of self awareness and rational thinking. It's not just a scattered collections of thoughts. So, according to Kant, there's this unified self that forms the basis of our awareness and reasoning. So it's kind of like saying, in the symphony of consciousness, unity is the maestro. Churchland's eliminated materialism takes a wrinkle ball to the concept of the self and psychology. It rejects the ideas of a unified self and embraces a purely physical viewpoint. In other words, it's just like saying, nope, there is no mystical unified self. It's all about the physical process in our self, in our brain. It challenged our traditional belief about the self and nudges us towards a more materialistic understanding. Husserl's phenomenology dives into the self-connections with intentional consciousness. It sheds light on how self plays a crucial role in this intentional awareness, underlining the active essence of our subjective experiences. Essentially, it's all about exploring how the self actively shapes our conscious Merleau-Ponty's take on the embodied self is all about highlighting the crucial role of the body. He emphasizes that our self-awareness and perception aren't just happening in the mind, so they are deeply intertwined with the body. So it's just like saying, hey, your body isn't just a vessel. It actively shapes how you perceive and understand yourself.
The perspective from the various, and this topic is more philosophers to contribute this topic, and this is my explanation about for the topic. Postmodernism challenged traditional notions of self by questioning stable identities and fixed meanings. It argues that individuals are shaped by various influences, including language and culture and power dynamics. Unlike traditional views that see the self as stable and unified, postmodernism suggests that identity is fragments, fluids, and construct through social discourses. The critic emphasized the idea that our understanding of self is not universal but contingent on cultural context and subjective interpretation. And the concept of the self significance, importance, fundamental questions about human existence and consciousness. Philosophers have explored the nature of self and its role in personal identity. The study of self delves into issues like free will, moral responsibility, and the nature of consciousness. Understanding the self is crucial in various philosophical traditions, including existentialism, empiricism, and phenomenology. The nature of human experience and the basis of individual autonomy. And this topic is studied for the all philosophers, and about the topic is more philosophers to contribute and to explain about the postmodernism. And conclusion, the philosophical exploration of the human identity, consciousness, and existence. This is profound implication for fields beyond philosophy, influence examination of the self prompts us to reconsider our assumption about human nature and raise important question about ethics, morality, and local or social frameworks. And this is my topic about postmodernism. Home perspective on the self as a bundle of perfection. So we have three examples of this. Number one is empirical analysis, and number two is constant flux, and the three is important on personal identity. One can be difference meaning between constant flux can have different meaning depending on the text. In physics, especially in electromagnetic induction, the concept of constant flux is associated with Faraday's law. A Faraday's law of electromagnetic including state that the electronic force
The impact of the person identity refers to the effect that various factors, experience, and influence have on shaping individual sense of self-identity. Personal identity is a complex of dynamic concept that encompasses on self-perception, belief, value, relationship, and also experience. That is the impact of personal identity. Understanding disciplinarian power help analyze how social institutions influence and shape individual behavior, norms, and identities. So the politics provide insight into the ways political power operation beyond traditional state function and into the fabric of the factors or influence of language in the creation of development of our society. Dependence, the conceptual or contingent nature of self-identity is said to be dependent on the language we practice and together nature framework. It is supposed to be a factors that ourself is a product of shared linguistic norms like now we have fun and social interaction like many people we live with other people we have learned from along the way was individual action and their repercussion. Interdependence extends this concept to encompass the interconnected nature of all existence. Principle challenge the notion of a permanent, unchanging self or soul, and from a fundamental aspect of Badla's teaching on the nature of
Philosophical perspectives challenge static views of the self, emphasize its dynamic nature. Differences in social influences, language, culture, and the notion of unified self contribute to a nuanced understanding of philosophical perspective on identity, emphasize interconnectedness and language roots. Recognizing identity's relational nature underscore ethical consideration emphasizing responsibility in social contexts. Language's influence role in shaping social norms and self-understanding highlights the importance of linguistic awareness in understanding personal agency across diverse philosophical views on identity. Postmodernist views on the self face criticism in the three areas. Essentialist response advocate for recognizing essential aspects. Ethical concern question implication for moral responsibility and cultural critics. Emphasize the need for inclusivity and cultural sensitivity, challenging ethnocentric tendencies. Perspectives are crucial for understanding the dynamic nature of identity in our interconnected world. They offer frameworks to address contemporary social challenges, promoting inclusivity and tolerance in society.